Yes, today is a very special day for me personally. This is a long dream come true, and it's really because of all of you that we are able to make this happen. So I'm just going to give you some background information on how we got here and why we are here. I think you've all kind of figured out why we are here today, but it's obviously to celebrate what's been a long time coming and what finally I hope getting right. For us all to be on the same page in terms of why it's important to conserve biodiversity, and I think a lot has been said about that already. And again, as Alan has said a lot today, to build partnerships. If we don't work together, none of this will work. And we really do want to leave something for our children for the future, and I think that's what it really does come down to. We can talk about economics and all sorts of things, but at the end of the day, we want to leave a legacy for our children to enjoy. So, as most of you know by now, Renosterveld is a critically endangered habitat. Occurs throughout the Western Cape, in the lowlands, on the clay-based soils, and it's essentially the ruins, as we know it, of the Overberg. So the area between the coastal Strandveld and the mountain fynbos. And our focus is Renosterveld and other lowland fynbos types that come into the lowlands from the foothills of the mountains. And in case you hadn't already realized this, they contain exceptional levels of plant biodiversity, incomparable with any other system in the world. It's the richest bulb kingdom in the world, so it's a very, very unique, special system from a plant point of view. For some plants, like these two here, there are only one, maybe two known populations in the world, and obviously this means they're on the brink of extinction. So very, very threatened plants, very, very limited distributions, very endemic. Some of the plants that are only being discovered now, there are many species that we've only discovered in the last year or two, and there are many more that we still need that we will still discover. So it's a very poorly known system and a very rich system. And then obviously, not to forget, we get very carried away as botanists about the plants. But the little critters that live in them are completely dependent on these systems for their survival. So lots of rare and endemic birds, especially the big birds that depend on farms, like the blue crane and many others. Many game birds and raptors are very threatened because of the loss of habitat and their dependence on these little remnants. And then the same goes for many mammals and insects and all sorts of other little critters that depend on these habitats. So our little antelope, our foxes, our rooikat, which I know you all love so much, and our pollinators are very, very dependent on these systems. So if you look at the extent of Renosterveld historically, it covered the lowlands of the Western Cape, and this Overberg region, which is our focus, is where Renosterveld would have occurred pre-1652. This is what it looks like today, except that some of the mapping stopped. The mapping stopped around Heidelberg, a little bit further east of Heidelberg, so ignore the big empty blotch before Riversdale. There is still some veld there, but essentially we've lost more than 90% of it. And what is left is often very degraded, overgrazed, as Dirk mentioned, and in desperate need of improved management. So in terms of the threats to our lowlands and our Renosterveld, fragmentation, obviously, as I mentioned, so the fact that everything's been broken up into little kolletjies and now are existing as small islands, is obviously the number one threat, but there's little we can do about that because it's already happened. Fire management is a huge issue, especially in terms of burning at the wrong time of year, burning too often, or not burning enough. So fire management is something that farmers generally tend to shy away from. It's scary burning, especially with wheat stubble now with conservation farming. You're worried about runaway fires, you're worried about your fences. So there's a huge need for improved knowledge and assistance with better fire management. Alien vegetation, luckily not a huge problem in Renosterveld itself, but in the fynbos, lowland fynbos types that we're also interested in, it's a really big issue. And the illegal plowing of virgin land. It is illegal to plow virgin land without a permit. What's left is really of very little agricultural value, but in some cases desperate calls for desperate measures, and we have a lot of illegal ploughing happening. So we need to find a way to curb this and help farmers to understand that there isn't really any point in doing this. And overgrazing, as I've mentioned, is probably the number one threat in addition to ploughing. So I love this quote. It's very apt, I think. If you do not change direction, you will end up where you are heading. And we are heading for this. We are heading for severely degraded habitats with getting to the point of no return. Our watercourses being completely destroyed, washed away, eroded away. Our natural systems and all their little critters that depend on them being completely degraded. And we need to change this before it's too late. So we've heard a lot about why protect our natural habitats, and as Dirk has mentioned as well, there's a lot that we don't understand. We don't understand how much we need these systems, how dependent we are on them, and what resources they may provide for us in the future. We may be losing medicinal or agricultural species that we haven't yet begun to understand. So these are all things that we don't know about. Climate change is going to hit us hard, and we may become more dependent on these systems than we realize. But farming is also going to change, and so we need to understand the role that our natural systems can play in helping us deal with these crises. We want to leave a legacy for future generations, as I mentioned, and that is something that sounds all soppy and soulful, but actually I think that's what it comes down to at the end of the day. And we're dependent on these systems for many ecosystem services, as we call them, in the form of erosion control, water management, improved catchments, and pollinators, etc. For recreation, whether it's hunting or bird watching or hiking or 4x4ing, we look to these systems when we want to go and relax and enjoy ourselves, and few farmers realize they have this right on their doorsteps. And again, the aesthetic or the spiritual experience of enjoying the felt and nature. I think that's very close to a lot of people's hearts. So the vision of our trust is to secure long-term conservation, to secure the long-term conservation management of the remaining lowland fragments by working with people, by creating very solid partnerships, and improving the overall quality of farms and livelihoods in the Overberg. So it's about people and landscapes and healthy farms and healthy environments. We've been hearing about that the whole morning. To introduce you to our board, and I'm going to ask them to stand up. Okay, you've all met Dirk. He's our chairperson, commercial farmer, and owner of a very, very special piece of veld, which he has declared a nature reserve. Then our vice chair, Alan Jefter, who you've also met already. So Alan brings us the community aspects, and also very nice, Alan is also a lawyer, so he's helped us set up our trust and get ourselves registered and assisted us with lots of legal advice as well. Leslie Richardson. Where is Leslie? There she is. Leslie's from the Flower Valley Conservation Trust, who is one of our strongest partners, and she's a huge value on our board as well. Sean Privet couldn't be here at the last minute. He's also from Flower Valley Conservation Trust and Grootbos Nature Reserve. He's also a botanist and brings a lot of knowledge and expertise to the trust. Prof. Charles Sturton. Thank you, Charlie. Charlie is responsible for describing many of the new legume species that we found that you saw on the slide earlier. Charlie's a botanist and has also got lots of experience with fundraising and trusts. And then the director, as I've now been titled, is me. Okay, so I'm a one-man band at the moment, so we are obviously just starting out, and we need to grow. And then our special advisors will be probably, to start with, two of our colleagues in the UK and America. And that is Rob Brett, who's with Fauna and Flora International. They're helping us with some seed funding and some advice on land purchase. And then David Houghton, who's also based in the States and does a lot of fundraising over there. He's helping us with fundraising too. So our objectives, just briefly, obviously the first thing we need to do is raise money. So for a while I won't be traveling around having tea with farmers and talking about how we can save their veld and looking at blommetjies. I'll be sitting behind my laptop writing funding proposals and trying to get money so we can fulfill the rest of our objectives. But what we really want to do is find a way to implement a whole different suite of strategies with landowners to conserve their veld in perpetuity, to formalize some sort of agreement or contract or title deed restriction where landowners can commit on their own to conserving veld in the long term. And obviously we realize that conservation is not cheap and that nobody can afford to do this without assistance. So our main objective will be to raise money to assist landowners, and by landowners I mean everybody is a landowner or a land manager, so communities, emerging farmers and commercial farmers who are interested in conservation or we manage to convert to conservation, to assist them with management. So for example, well, I'm going to go back into that now. And in a few cases where it's appropriate, we are also working on a program with WWF to purchase some of the critical habitats, but that's in a very limited area in the Overberg that we focus on. And then research is a big part of our strategy. I've been doing research on an Oosterveld for the last 6 years. 5-6 years, and the idea is to continue these long-term projects so that we can strengthen our understanding of how to manage it and improve our management. And as has been mentioned a lot already, community involvement is critical, that we involve our communities. They are coming into this new, it's an opportunity to start people off on a positive note and get them involved from the beginning. So awareness and, where possible, obviously job creation. And our partners are one of the most important legs of this whole thing is building partnerships with the relevant government departments, with the NGOs. BirdLife, for example, is looking at getting more involved with private land conservation and that sort of thing. So there's a huge opportunity here to collaborate and move forward together instead of working in silos as we have been doing for a very long time. Okay, and then the Overberg project. Alan's spoken a lot about the SGF project and the community involvement, but from a conservation point of view, it's a critical area for conservation. It's got 2 species of plants there, this erica and another ground protea, that probably contains the biggest population in the world of these 2 species. So the habitat is really special. It's really extensive, so you have an opportunity for hiking trails and tourism, linking up through Overberg, bringing the community in, and then going up into the mountain into Grootvadersbos, for example. So these are sort of dreams that we have now that we're developing and hoping to be able to fund. So an example of, for example, how we would like to work with landowners in the future is we have a map, a very detailed GIS database of exactly where all the fragments are, how big they are, whether they're most contiguous, and so we can use this map to prioritize and decide on where our important areas are, where we would like to start. And so, for example, we can identify a series of farms where it looks on the map like, okay, that's quite a big cluster, and then go in and do a veld assessment and look at the quality of the veld, what sort of management is being implemented, what are the challenges, is it full of aliens, does it need a fence around it, etc. And then go to the landowners and the communities and discuss what their attitude is and what their willingness is in terms of conserving in the long term. And then, together with the landowner, sit down and assess what the management needs are. So does your veld need to burn, or do you require a fence, or what are in an ideal world, what would you do to manage your veld better? And then obviously we have to look at the costs of that and where we can find the resources, and that's obviously a big part of the fundraising strategy, is to find resources to be able to assist with these management costs. Assess the options for long-term conservation. So for example, there's a stewardship type of mechanism in place. There's what is known in America as a conservation easement, where you're effectively buying a servitude from a farmer to declare a certain section of his farm nature reserve, but with no change of ownership or anything like that. So there are mechanisms in place that we want to explore and be able to do more effectively on private land. Then the landowner we would work through a management plan together with the landowner and make sure that we're all on board in terms of how the veld needs to go forward in its management. And then, as I mentioned, create these solid partnerships so that if, for example, we are able to raise money to assist a landowner, we know that we're not throwing it down a dark hole, that there is some long-term commitment to conservation. So this is one of the key projects for me, is this easement program, and then the communities, but bringing that together as one program, because at the end of the day it's about working with the managers and the owners of the land. So my dream is to have little reserves dotted across the Overberg, and with time grow these until eventually you just have this landscape full of reserves and areas where farmers are changing their attitudes and conserving, and we'll have little boards outside and we'll promote conservation. We'll get an attitude change where people feel proud of their habitats, their natural habitats, instead of being embarrassed or wanting to plough them or hating them and seeing it as uitvalgrond. And with time, perhaps, the idea that we are discussing as well is an agro-eco-tourism route through these areas, where, as we've mentioned, Niels Ace is probably one of the few that is really practicing agro-tourism, agri-tourism in a big way, but is bringing people onto farms, showing them how it works, giving them the freedom to walk around and make themselves at home on private land. So this is the ultimate dream, and I hope we can get there. So yes, just a last note to really get together and make these partnerships work so that we can leave a legacy for our children. We need to think on a different scale now. We need to think about landscapes and landscape conservation and farming conservation, conserving farms, conserving productive lands, conserving veld, so that we have healthy landscapes which function sustainably. And just quickly want to say a few thank yous. I'm not thanking everyone that's been done and people have been welcomed, but I just really wanted to say thank you to Jeffrey. Where's Jeffrey? There he is. Jeffrey from Sakaza Communications has done this much out of his own for us. He's arranged all these microphones and computers, as Alan said. And Jeffrey, as a thank you, we'd like to offer you one of these photographs. You can choose one. So thank you, Jeffrey, for being here. And then Heather Dalton, my dear friend, who's also done a lot of work, help us with media releases. It's a far way for the media to come, but we are sending them. Heather's been typing away and is going home to email press releases and make sure that we are all over the papers, yes. Let's hope. And then Tina Flock is our brilliant web designer and designer of the banners that you see and our little key rings, which you must please take one of here. And Tina, for those of you who haven't been to our website, it's the sexiest website out, I promise you. www.overbergrenosterveld.org.za. You must visit it. Okay, and then I'm just going to leave the board till last. The Department of Agriculture, I think we've thanked quite a lot, but thank you so much for hosting this event. This is really a first, I think, in many ways, as has been said. Very special to all be holding hands and moving forward together. So thank you very much. And then to all of you for being here, this day would not have been a success without your attendance, so thank you. And lastly, my board, these 5 people have made my dream possible and have really supported me and backed me up, and I'd just like to thank you all for your faith in me and this project. Thank you.